as the universe educates you, what it's doing is it's basically causing you to make changes from one state to another state, one state to another state. So for example, you're governed by a series of laws which create the structure of what happens in puberty. And that's causing you to change from one state to another state, to a new state, right? Triggers a lot of things for the soul, including the beginning of awareness that there potentially is another half of them, you know. That all happens during that time, generally speaking. It's almost, the universe is almost, the law is forcing it upon you, forcing these changes. So the universe is forcing these changes upon the soul that's a human, not divine yet, just the human soul. And those changes will be caused, and you get to the point where you live in harmony enough to live in the sixth sphere. And in that state, you will be perfected in your love of the human. But that's as far as it will go. You will not be perfected in your knowledge, because that's a physical impossibility. But also your knowledge will be very, very limited, because there's so many things above that state that you will never understand unless you are receiving a part of God to understand the new state that you're entering. And you can't enter the new states. There are some new states you cannot enter without God, right? So you could say in a lot of ways you go through this natural human process which gets you to a sixth sphere condition, and that gets you to a state where you can sort of, you're fascinated, absolutely fascinated by the place you're living in the sixth sphere condition, and you stay fascinated for many, many, often millennia. I've met people that have been fascinated there for a couple 100,000 years, fascinated with everything they're doing, not learning anything more. Basically, they're learning new things about new things without learning anything about God or how it all works. So if you can sort of put it this way, you're constantly having new experiences about new things that you didn't see before, but fundamentally you're going through the same process, and the process is, this is the process that most sixth sphere spirits have experienced over the course of their life. They go through learning a whole heap of new things to the point where they can't understand any more than that. And then that sort of subject loses interest for them because there's a limit to their understanding of it. And then what they do to create more fascination is they come up with assumptions. You understand what I mean by that? So if I just sort of draw that in terms of the learning process, they learn new things, so that's number one, they do learn, and they do learn actual truths, right? And then they get to the point where their learning has saturated, right? You know, I can't learn any more about this. I know there's more there, but I can't learn it. I don't know how. Make sense? I don't know how to learn it. It's like if you were learning how to, I don't know, an example is learning about atomic structure, right? And you delve into atomic structure, you go down, deep into it, far deeper than what a human on Earth can do. You keep going down, and it might take you 1,000 years to do this because it's fascinating, and there's so much to learn. And so you deep into it, and then you get to a point where there's all these things that it just raises more questions, and you don't have any way to investigate it or to find an answer. And you realise that. You get to a point where you realise that and you go, oh. And it's sort of like, oh, well, that's my limit. And then once I hit that limit, I'm going, well, now I know there's more there and I'm really fascinated about the subject. So what is your temptation to do? To make things up. To come up with ideas. Right, so in other words, you make things up. Or you come up with what you would call scientifically theories. And then you spend the next 1,000 years coming up with a theory, testing it, 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 only to find that every theory you come up with never gives me the answer. Imagine how frustrating that could be if you're fascinated about a subject and every theory you come up with now, there's the dissatisfaction of never getting the answer. So now you've been doing this for like 10,000 years, let's say. So now you're getting to the point where there's an emotional thing that happens. And the emotional thing is you feel a bit tempted to give up and move on to a new subject. Does that make sense? So let's say my subject matter was atomic structure. Let's say that was my subject matter. I learn until I reach the sixth sphere, and in the sixth sphere my brain, my physical brain now works at 100%, my spirit body brain works at 100%. There's no limitations, sin's not limiting my experience. So I'm understanding a fair bit, right? So I get to that stage and learn, and then I get to learn more, and then I get to the point where I realise I can't learn more. So now I'm saturated my learning. Now what I've got to do is come up with theories and ideas and why that is and everything. So I do that for the years. And sometimes I can do that for 10 times the amount of time I did that. Until that doesn't satisfy me anymore either. Now what would you do in that circumstance? Can you see you just move on to another fascinating subject? So let's choose another fascinating subject. Sea creatures. And off we go. First 1,000 years is very interesting. You know, I'm pretty much learning every day. I'm fascinated by it. The next 1,000 years or two, I'm coming up with theories again, and I come up with theories and I can't really satisfy the answers to those theories, and I can't really work it out. I even in that place of the theories, write books about all my theories, of which some get transmitted to Earth even, of those same theories. So some spirits take up those theories in lower spheres and they try to share that with the scientists on Earth, you know, through channeling information to them, through influencing their choice to investigate a certain thing, you know. And that all happens, all of that happens regularly, you know, every day, pretty much. So I'm now fascinated about the next subject, I'm investigating that, but again I reach this point of saturation and then I come up with my theories and my ideas. Now imagine you've done this a number of cycles, like maybe 100 of those cycles. Like some of the people I've met have done more than 100 of those cycles. Where they've done basically, you know, 1,000 years on this one, and, you know, 50 years, you know, 500 years on that one, and got to the point of, and the interesting thing, the more you learn, the more saturated you become earlier as well. So that's an interesting phenomenon that occurs when you're in the sixth sphere as well. So you end up, you're trying to learn about the universe, but there's a whole, you start realising 95% of it I got no idea about still. And also, the very interesting thing is that not only do I have no idea about it, but I have no idea how to not have no idea about it. I have no idea how to find out more about it. I don't know what to do. Right? And you can imagine what you start to feel in that place. And it's the same with every investigation. Like, you meet your soulmate, you're in the sixth sphere, you meet your soulmate. Most people in the sixth sphere generally have met their soulmate by that point in time. They meet the soulmate, they're fascinated in their soulmate, they learn about their relationship, they dig into their relationship more and more and more because it brings happiness, do more and more, they get to a point of saturation, and then they come up with theories. How does this work? How does that work? Experiment with this, experiment with that, experiment with this, experiment with that. Next 10,000 years experimenting with theories about how to get closer, what is going to happen, how to grow, only to find out also that all that I don't know more about. Does that make sense?